Yo, what up, everybody? You already know Sly K Loco here with another episode of CannaConvos. Today, we got a special one, man. We got Mitchell here from Visionary Hydroponics. He is the inventor of the Hydro Bucket, right? He is doing his thing out there. He's been on Instagram. He has a website and everything like that. Now, the Hydro Bucket is a DWC bucket, which is it's like top notch in the game because it has a little port to where it has open to where you could be able to change out your water and stuff. Now for DWC, most people just have a bucket and you have to lift up this bucket to change out the water, and it's a whole big thing. So Mitchell's bucket here is very visionary, it's innovative, it's new, and we're going to be talking about it. How are you doing today, brother?
I'm doing great. Thanks for that awesome introduction. I'm doing well, and I'm really happy to be here with you.
Good, man. Thank you so much for coming on. I have seen your bucket. Now, I've been growing cannabis for about 5 years now, and I've had a lot of people tell me about DWC and that I should make the switch, because I grow in soil. But I've never, I haven't been confident enough to do this. And I've been from afar doing a lot of studying, and I do a lot of knowing the ins and outs, the goods, the bads of DWC, what I should look for, what I want, what I don't want, so that when I do make the move to DWC, I think I would want to use your product because it just looks easier. And in a grow, these little steps that make things more efficient are what you're looking for, So from like I said before, what I've seen a lot of people do is just put a 5-gallon bucket and have to lift up the whole bucket, swap it out with some water or some new solution or whatever, and then just drop it in, right? Your bucket is different. You have that little flap, right? That is there a flap that covers it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I do have a hydro bucket right here, right? And that's it. Is like instead of the regular 5-gallon bucket that existed, it didn't have access to the nutrient solution, right? I mean, that's what it was. And I was growing in buckets because that's what you did, and that's what was available. It was either a 5-gallon bucket or an RDWC system, And for someone just getting in, I was like, well, I don't know if I want to commit to this big recirculating system. It's a little bit intimidating. It's a little bit expensive, and I looked into hydroponics, and hydroponics are amazing, right? You just need nutrient solution on your roots and in different formats. It's amazing, right? So, but this is exactly it, right? Now you have access. So, you can with this access, you can easily check you can add and remove nutrients very conveniently, but also you can easily just check your pH. You can just open it up and your pH meter will fit right there, and you can look at it. You can look at your roots. You can inspect your air stone because they plug off. You can monitor your air stone, make sure it works well. Inspect your roots visually, right? Of course, something that we're just doing now at a facility, cannabis facility that I'm at. We're putting floats into them all. Okay. So super excited about this. So what we're going to be doing is having a little float on like a pressurized time system. Yeah. So we always have the right water level, and we're always pumping in what we want, but it doesn't have to recirculate. Nice. So by having this unique shape allows you to do all that stuff.
That's so cool because I've always thought about that. I've always thought, why don't we just put a floater system in to because I use a blue mat system, which is an automatic watering system, but it's using gravity and little carrots, right? Well, why don't we just add a floating system to the reservoir? That way we never have to go in there and go fill up the bucket, man. And so the same thing goes with your bucket. But in that you would have to go and just swap out for nutrients, right?
We're gonna have they're gonna be connected to a drain line as well, so you'll be able to blow them down whenever you want, and that's important as well, right? I mean, if you're a small grow, then you can use a pump, right? A small like pony pump or aquarium pump or shop vacs work really well, right? Because you might already have one. They suck those out like easily. But for a bigger room where we have
they suck like no other. Hey.
Yeah, and so that for a bigger room, you need blowouts, right? You can't be doing individual things. So we're just going to open up the valves on the bottom and just evac all that water out. I think it's going to work really well. It's totally a pilot. I've never done it on this scale, but we're going to have an epicenter, similar to current culture or recirculating systems where you have that external reservoir, right?
Okay.
That's our epicenter. And so that epicenter is going to be connected to a chiller. So it's going to be cold as fuck, right?
Okay.
Because it has to survive the pump out to the hydro buckets, right? Yeah. And deliver that cold water. So it's going to be really cold. So we're always going to be checking the back end, but we're going to have this chilled water. We're going to have it on an auto-dose sanitizer. So it's always sanitized at all times. And again, having it high enough so by the time it gets to the buckets that are just static and not circulating, you're going to balance, right, to get it to that 420 millivolts kind of thing. So it's always like that. It's going to be pH'd properly, right? Auto-dose pH. So really I feel like it's a lot like getting the benefits of a recirculating system, but without all the costs and all the more.
Right? Yes, because the recirculating system comes with a lot of PVC piping. You got glues. You got one thing that can happen a lot with the RCW, which I wanted to back up a little bit for everybody out there. If you don't know what the DWC is, sorry, we went a little bit quick in there. And if you've been watching the show, you should know. But every once in a while, we do get some new people in, so this is what we're here for. DWC stands for deep water culture. Okay, it's hydroponics. That's what you can grow cannabis. You can grow all plants actually in this kind of this method of growing. Now it's more sanitary than soil. It's cleaner. The plants grow faster. The plants grow bigger. There's a lot of plus to it. But there also is a little bit of negatives. You got to be on top of everything because it can switch like that, quick status. But I do think that DWC is stupid interesting. It's so cool. And everybody for the RWC stands for recirculating deep water culture. So it would be RDWC.
That's
Sorry.
Right.
But yes, then that is what Mitchell's talking here has a reservoir and then a bunch of other buckets, and the water goes from the resi all the way to the other buckets, and it just recirculates.
Yeah, round and round. Yeah, no, and that's it. And this is it. There's so many hydroponic methods. That's kind of been one of the challenges in getting into this space, is that it's about a better mousetrap thing, right? There's so many ways to grow, and we're trying to tell people, we're presenting an amazing way to grow, which is deep water culture, and we actually have equipment that makes it that you want to, because 5-gallon buckets work and they suck. They eliminate a lot of things that you want to do. They make it inconvenient, and all these little things that chip away from you are going to result in maybe you don't have the best plants because it's a little bit of a pain in the ass to do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. We made it convenient, so now we do have we make it attractive to come to deep water culture and give it a try, because I feel like I solved the only issue with deep water culture was access.
Yes, right? Actually, as a matter of fact, that's the one thing that was turning me off is the access to the roots and everything, and especially if you have a trellis on. If you have a trellis on the plants, it's even harder to pick up that plant because your trellis is pulling down on it.
And this is why we recirculate. This is why that was my natural progression. I before cannabis became legal here in Canada, I heard it was announced.
So you're in Canada. Okay. I thought I was looking at your the milliliters. That's the way that you were measuring the water, and I was like, "Are they in Canada?" I think so.
Yes, we're in Canada. Yeah, so before legalization happened, I looked at. I was like, "Man, I've always wanted to grow cannabis. I've had cannabis posters on my wall and magazines. I've loved this plant forever." And so I was like, "Wow." I don't want to wait until it legalizes and then I learn how to grow. I'm like, I'm going to come out of the gates running. So I bought the Grow Bible. Shout out Grow Bible.
Yeah.
Shout out to little plug for us. We're going to be in the Grow Bible. So, I mean, check it out. Check out the new version that's coming out. I mean, we're excited about that. But so I bought the Grow Bible. I read it forward, front to back to decide I'm going to grow what works for me in my space. What's going to work for me and I was totally open, and I landed on hydroponics because I was growing in my house through my living room, my TV room, to this little closet. I'm like, I don't want soil in here. That doesn't work for me. I'm like, that's just I'm like, hydroponics, and I dig into it a bit, and I'm like 100%. So I started growing for a year before legalization. I started my grow, and I grew peppers, tomatoes, cucumbers, like everything. I just started this hydro grow, and 6 months into it, I was just like, I'm good. It's a jungle in here, and I don't want to do this work for lettuce and peppers. I'm like, I want to grow cannabis. So, I kept a few pepper plants around, got the grow ready. As soon as cannabis hit, I started growing, and I started in 5-gallon buckets. And eventually I found myself hooking them all up into a recirculating system because I needed access, right? Because I couldn't scrog. I couldn't do all these things, and I didn't want to be checking and spending all that time, and it was so clumsy. So I ended up having a recirculating system, and then, we were in the on a boys trip, and, maybe doing a little bit of this and that, and felt inspired. And I was like, man, there's a better way. We just need access. We need access. And so we made access.
Yeah. Nice. Now, are you using a 3D printer to print these out, or is it?
No, we're not. So
out and you get it made and then it comes back? Or?
Yeah. So through the process, and we still do it from time to time, is we will 3D print to test ideas and test products. But the 3D printing we found was fairly expensive on an each's level, like per piece. And it's brittle. It's not the same. You don't have access to something that's molded. That's high density polyethylene. Food grade is what we made the Hydro Bucket out of. And then we switched to a different product for the white lid, so it actually stops light.
Because the light breaks down the plastic over time.
This is it. I mean, if you're going to use white, you have to use a specific type of material. You can't do a white high density polyethylene, or light goes right through it, right? And then that's not great for your root mass. But that's it. So we have our mold here in Canada, just east of Vancouver, and we make all our products in Canada, and we sell probably 95% of our business is done in the U.S.
Nice. Yeah. I really haven't heard of anybody from Canada using one yet. Only here in the States. Huh. Probably you're gonna have to get that marketing more over there, huh? So one of my first questions was I was gonna ask you, how did you come up with the name for Visionary Hydroponic?
My partner Dennis, shout out to my partner Dennis. He's amazing. He basically runs the business side of it, and he does a great job. And I do fun stuff like podcasts and answer emails and help growers, which is super fun also. But one day he's just like, Hydro Bucket, and I was like, cool name. Visionary Hydroponics was he's like, for a business name. I'm like, man, nailed it. Sounds good to me.
So easy peasy then, huh?
Yeah, just like that.
All right, man. Yeah, that's how some of these names come, because when they come and they just fit, they fit. Like CannaConvos, I just told this one of my followers, I was like, yo, I'm thinking about starting a podcast. What do you think? She's like, CannaConvos. I'm like, boom, there it is. All right, we're done. Let's go. Move on to the next thing. And so when it's great when a name fits like that, because you can move on to getting the business started and getting the things going and shit. So how did you come up with the Hydro Bucket? Now you just said that, right?
that was it. I mean, maybe we were had some steak and mushroom supper kind of thing, and and that was it, and we just it was just one of those things that was bugging me, right? I was just thinking, we're using adapted technology here, we're technology, 5-gallon buckets. We're using adapted equipment. It's not purpose built. you know, and sure, I mean, and this is one of some of the resistance we have is we have, you know, people that have been growing for 10 years, 15 years hydroponics, and they built their own system and it works well. And it's true, you know, that you can just put pipes and plastic and sprayers together. A lot of people, they have fun with it because it's so flexible. You can do whatever you want. But a lot of people also just want to grow. They just want to buy something and grow, right? They're I've lost people before when I tell them, okay, well, get a bucket, get a drill, get a hole saw, you know, get a grommet, get a light tube. I mean, right away you get people like, I just want to grow, bro. I don't want to have to. What do you?
I don't want to have to learn how to use a drill. I
don't want to manufacture my own thing. It's for a certain type of person, right? And there's lots of those guys out there, and they're very vocal. I mean, shout out to you guys because you know, as growers, we're all right? You know, we have success in our own way, and you're right. You know, it's so everyone has great advice, but it's your own experience. And yeah, so you know, so we're presenting a way to do deep water culture that again,
more. And it's definitely okay because you're not saying that you don't want people to learn those skills to be able to grow to build your system, because that will come. I trust me, everybody out there, if you just jump into the hydro bucket and you just start, you just get started, right?
Yeah.
You will catch the bug most likely. You'll catch the bug and you'll be like, ooh, because then after a while of growing, you'll start to see these little parts of where, oh, you know what? I need this. It'd be easier if I do this or do that, because everybody's grow is different.
Right. That's it.
It is your grow. There's so many variables in here that no two people will ever have the exact same grow. It's just not going to happen. There's so many there. There's different curing, lights, temperatures, there's just so many variables. So just have fun with it, everybody out there.
That's it.
Go in there, have fun, grab one of these buckets, throw a plant in there, see how it goes. Now, one thing with me, as in for DWC, because I was looking down in your page, and saw the hydro plug, right, for the seedlings. Now, I've never done hydroponics, period, but I've seen a lot of people doing them, and I see that doing seedlings and clones in hydroponics really works.
Yes.
These clones and these seeds really like it.
Yeah.
Now, with the hydro plug, I was looking back, and you said that you wanted it to stretch, right?
Right.
You want the plant to stretch so that you can get that little plastic part around it to hold it up, right? Yep. Okay. Now, when that happens, now usually everybody else or other people use clay pots or clay pebbles to hold it up, right? Yep. Is there a reason why you don't? You just prefer that plastic one to hold it up?
Here's the thing: is from being a grower at a facility and basically, you know, having a facility, we're always looking at cost per gram, right? You know, is how do you keep cost per gram down? And if you have to, let's just talk about a cocoa grow. If you have to clean cocoa and prep cocoa and, you know, work the bugs and do all these things, that's a lot of labor and a lot of time and a lot of money when you're dealing with you know, whether it's pellets or cocoa or, you know, even plugs, right? So I wanted something that's super easy, that you can that you don't have to, you know, change out much. So like clones, of course, are absolutely amazing because you just put them in the collar and you put them in the hydropod, and that's it. And when it comes to harvest, you clip the roots off, you pull it out the top, and you're done. So your turnarounds like that, you wash your plastic parts, you turn your room over or your home grow in no time at all, right? And you're not bringing anything back and forth that you have to really wash and sanitize super well like your clay pellets. Otherwise, you have those contaminations that can just stay with you, right? So we kind of simplified that. And then when it comes to the hydropod or the hydro plug, I found in my experience growing, the hardest part about deep water culture for new growers is the seedling stage. You know, there's paper towel works well. Rock wool, I mean, I've had very success sewing directly to rock wool. I don't know what it is. It's a little bit cursed with rock wool, but I don't like sewing into it. But with these plugs, I mean, they're inert, they're non-shedding. Everything about them, it basically merges what everybody would be comfortable with, which is take a seed, put it in some dirt, right? I mean, it's the most natural thing. That's exactly what it is with this plug, is you just throw your seed in there and then do a drain to waste until you get germination. And you don't have to transplant anything from a paper towel. You don't have to mess with much. It's just it's just so.
Because that paper towel is another step where you can, you add another factor of failure.
You do 100%.
If you're using that, because this happened to me where I've done the paper towel and I pulled that little seedling off and the little the water root popped off. And so that's something that after putting a little bit of time into, it sucks, man. Especially if you spend money on these genetics. It'd be a lot easier to just throw, like you said, sew it right into that pot, into the little plug. And there you go, baby.
Yeah, and that's it. And I get it. I mean, a lot of people, they do use the paper towel method because they do have access to maybe more seeds, and they're looking for winners. They're looking for winners right out the gate. That seedling that looks a little beefier, a little furrier, all those things are like, okay, I'm going to pop 50 seeds and I'm going to find the good ones. Okay, I get it, right? And those camps, you can be, they're going to take it anyway because they're such good seeds, right? You find those winners. But for the most part, this I say I always plant 3 no matter what. Even in my hydro plugs, I'll soak seeds for 12 hours or 8 hours, 2 hours, whatever, just whatever I get up to. And then I sow those seeds directly in there, and I'll put 3 at a time always. And I'm just looking for
one plug or
3 seeds in one plug, and I snip I keep the winner. I'm looking for the winner, and that's it, right? I'm giving him 3 chances. And to me, because I've seen enough variation in genetics that, especially if you're a new grower, you get going and you have a plant, it's your baby. You don't want to give up on that thing. So you get this little run to, you're like, oh, but I love you. Yep. So give yourself the chance to grow the biggest, best plant, and just 3 seeds per. Keep the winner every time.
Now, in my early days of growing, I was always one to give that runt that chance, because it happened every once in a while. That runt came and showed you what's up, man. I had this one that I was like, it was a runt and it was runts. So, I was like, of course I'm going to grow it out because I love runts, right? I love that fruity taste. And it's just all me. And sure enough, it blew me away, dude. I was like, I knew not to give up on this land. It happened. Now, how long have you been growing in DWC?
8 years.
8 years.
Yeah,
okay.
8 years.
So did you start in? Did you start in DWC, or have you tried
100% exclusively DWC from day one? Yeah. I tried. I've grown one plant, one cannabis plant in soil, and I didn't like it, to be honest.
It just wasn't your gig, huh?
Well, this was it. It was like for my experience right off the bat, it was like, is it too wet or is it too dry? Like right there, like my very first time, is it too wet or is it too dry? And I'm getting these funky, the leaves, they look tired, and like I'm overwatering. I don't have the right drainage in the soil. The thing about deep water culture is that, it's one of the things you were talking about earlier. It simplifies so much because it's a recipe. Yes. It's a recipe. You follow the recipe, and if all the categories are correct, like within the specifications, it's going to do whatever you can do. So you almost take that part out of it, right? You're not watering. You're just preparing it, and you put your prepared solution, and you monitor the parameters. And once you know all your parameters of all your things, now the bottom portion of the plant is like on autopilot. It's once you get it, it is like so simple. It runs itself, and now you can spend time up with the trellis, learning how to lollipop and how to get that next and that yield, right? Now you get the yield. You learn. So we eliminate that bottom portion, and now we have all the time in the world to spend where we can be spending it, right? It was my experience. So
I think that's brave, because, well, it's not so brave. It depends on because I was taught when I was watching, I was like, oh, soil. And you're absolutely right. There is that learning curve that you need to know when growing in soil, if you're overwatered or underwatered, because there is that perfect thing. that because your plant is just going to be showing it. Now with DWC, I was scared on how everything could change so quick. So they say your pH is off, boom, your plant, could die quick. And so that's one thing where I was like, but now the way everything's set up nowadays, I don't think that that's much of a problem. Because you have access to the plant, access to the water, like you said nowadays. You got better meters, everything. Back in the day when I started, I only had the test strips. I didn't even so
yeah.
But
and also just conditioning the water. We're at a point now in deep water culture and hydroponics that we can use products like Hygrozyme, and this is an enzyme, right? And this enzyme is going to basically protect you from root rot. It's preventative, right? It's going to if you drop a leaf into your reservoir, or you get some, eventually everyone's get some little dry crusty somewhere, and they get around, the stuff like that gets in there. Or maybe you're checking your air stone or something, and you break a couple roots off. Those are going to decay and die and turn into rot, and you're going to have a compromised root mass. It's going to happen. Hygrozyme is going to protect you from that. The enzymes are going to deal with any of that stuff. So that's amazing. So number one, I've always used that. I always recommend it. But then number two, I feel like that was the final piece of the puzzle, is running the sanitized system, right? You can still use Hygrozyme. You can still use stuff like microbial mass if you're into microbes and you're really trying to use all the best products. You can run a very low sanitized system, and it's sanitized, just like when water comes out of your tap. It's sanitized. We know it is because someone's monitoring that and adjusting it so it's within the right values. We can do that with ORT meters, and now we can measure that. And so we just keep it perfectly sanitized at all times. So even if there was infection or something was compromised, you're going to see an indicator, and you're going to go, whoa, what happened? So you're going to fight against it a little harder. For me, it's the final piece of the puzzle that makes it simple. But the ORT meter comes with a little bit of money. So
there's just like if you guys are getting into growing, you're going to be spending a little bit more. Now the cheaper way is soil and all that, but you're going to be spending money in there too. So if you wanted to go to the DWC route, that's a good way to go. The Hygrozyme, those are enzymes that work. Now enzymes to me are amazing. I love enzymes. There's fascinating little organisms that break down a lot of these things that, like, we have enzymes. I work in the kitchen, and so we use this enzyme solution to break down the stuff that comes on your silverware that is built from the enzymes, or it breaks up the stuff that is in your mouth that doesn't come off of the silverware, and it's enzymes. Anyways, and there's enzymes that break down plastics. There's enzymes that just, as in this instance, they eat the dead, decaying stuff, right? Because it doesn't affect the roots at all, right?
No, not at all. It's only looking for organic material, right?
Organic material that's dying, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it takes that dead organic material and turns it into a useful product that the plant can absorb. So it's a win-win. So even before I was using sanitized system, like I say, it's the latest thing that I'm onto, and especially it's again because I'm moving into a bigger grow, and we can't really have mistakes at that level, right? But as a home grower, I used enzymes. And that's it. Right from the get-go, after I experienced a little bit of root rot, I realized you can't just have nutrients and water. It's not good enough. That's you need something else. You need something else to protect you against root rot, and give you the ability to grow in slightly warmer conditions, right? Because the as a single bucket, you're going to have a little bit warmer solution, but that's fine. It's manageable.
And as long as you have the enzyme, then it's manageable, right? But if you didn't have the enzyme, you would want to use a chiller.
If you didn't use enzymes, you either have to have it extremely clean, so you don't contaminate it and jeopardize it, right? And so that's one option. So potentially you could just have a nice clean grow. That's not me. I mean,
it's not realistic. I mean, I'm dirty. I would love to say that my grow is perfect and like clean. It's not, man.
No,
Behind the scenes, like and I'm one of those growers that I show the good and the bad. So
yeah,
I'm gonna show if my shit looks, fucked up.
So that's it, right? I mean,
we're busy. We have lives too,
That's
It's
right.
not just,
That's right.
The growing is not everything. I wish it could be, but it's not. So.
Yeah, no, that's it. So it's not perfectly clean. So that's probably not the best option for most people, though some people would get away with it. So then, the other option is really enzymes or a chiller and running those cold temperatures. And, essentially you're providing more oxygen into solution the colder the solution is. So it holds more oxygen. So it's, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to get fact checked here by someone who's a scientist listening to me, but there's more oxygen, and that keeps the root mass healthier.
More oxygen stops the bad bacteria from growing, and
this is it, right? So that's it. But even though you probably still want enzymes, either way.
I definitely think that they couldn't hurt, if anything, because I was sitting there thinking, will the enzymes hurt the root mass? But no, they only go for the dead material.
Only the dead. That's it. They I've never made it to the finish line with a plant, and especially if you're growing photos, you can. I've done crazy things. I've done there's one thing I tell new growers or anyone growing is always grow it out. If you can afford to, right? If you can still keep it going and, decide I'm going to take this thing another 8 weeks or, 2 months, you learn so much. That's where you learn is your errors in life. And with growing, what do you do?
I love the way you say that, because that's one thing that I tell everybody. I always say you don't learn from always killing it.
That's
you
it.
Learn from your mistakes.
That's 100%.
From these experiences, going through this, and it's not wasting time. None of this, you guys out there, none of this is wasting time. Don't ever think that, I got this far in the grow and then they just died on me. Well, don't take that as a little bit of learning experience. Now okay, whatever week it is, the flower that they died on you, keep an eye on it at that time.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's always for a reason. This is it. I mean, there's no magic or mystery. It's just one component of your grow wasn't right. Did you too much of this, not enough of this? Was it temperature or was it nutrients or was it whatever, right? But it's not hard to figure out. Once you figure out these parameters, and you get to grow at home, and like it's freedom, man. I mean,
it really is freedom. I recently have I lost my temp for a while and all this stuff, so I have been miserable not growing. Oh my God. I've been like, I need some plants to take care of or go look at. It's just fun. Do you offer a RWC version of the hydro buckets?
No, we do not.
Are you going to in the future? I mean, because I see there's potential out there for another, option of revenue if you ever wanted to go down that road.
There is potential there. There is some restrictions or some hurdles to that. It's a busy space, right? There's a lot of people who already do it, and the people who do it, they can typically they have either using buckets that don't need the side reservoir.
Oh.
Right. You could just use 5-gallon buckets, because the whole point of having that recirculating system is so you don't need access to the root mass. So, you build your recirculating system and you run from your recirculating system from your epicenter, right? And that's it.
Well, I mean, I would still want to be able to check the pH in that individual plant.
Yeah, I mean, they're all the same, right? This is it. They're all the same.
Yeah, they're all the same.
So I was working on. I recently moved about a year ago, and until then, and where my grow was set up, I was working on a recirculating system.
Okay.
And I was pretty excited about how it was, turning out, because it was different than your regular recirculating system, and it had some things. that we're going to be improvements on, and especially for the home grower, right? Looking for people who grow at home, not necessarily because that's where these recirculating systems kind of lose home growers and lost me as an initial home grower. It was like, okay, it's cool. How much do you want for it? I'm like, that's that's too much for me. I can't get into growing by spending that much money, right? So we'll see. I'm more excited about this float valve version that I'm working on. I'm hoping to start releasing content here this week on the room that we're getting everything plumbed in right now, because I feel it's taking out all the expense of a recirculating system. It's going to allow us to really control everything anyway, right? And automate everything. And for these plants, if you have a canopy and it's all the same genetic, and you're feeding it all the same thing, and you're not necessarily checking every single one of them, right? We're just going to check random plant sites, but if they all look good, they're good. That's in my experience, that's how simple it is. And that's how I've grown for 8 years. Once I came out with a hydro bucket, I did not recirculate anymore. And I had when I moved, but I had 16 plants growing, was my flower room, all single site hydro buckets. And again, I would check one of them because I would mix up one reservoir, and then I would use just like a pump, and I would just fill them all. I'd fill them all, and I would just monitor one. And if the pH started to rise on that plant out of range, I would give them all X amount of pH down. And if they all look the same, they're probably all the same, and they always were. And that's how I grew. And then when it was time to pump them out, I'd pump them all out. But even servicing 16 plants individually, some people might say, "Oh, that's a lot of work." I wasn't in the fluid. Once you get the hang of it and it's dialed in, it is what it is. It's like making a cake. Once you learn how to make a cake, you don't worry about, is it going to turn out this time? I wonder if it's going to turn out. Turns out every time. You know what
you're doing. You know if something feels a little off, if you got something that's not working right.
This is deep water culture. Once you figure it out, you have it figured out. And I wouldn't even stress. I wouldn't even look, and I wouldn't go into the hydro bucket and check my nutrient solution maybe every 3 days. Maybe. And that's like if they were, sometimes it was because they were drinking and, in that stage of flower where they're just crushing their nutrients. So I had to make sure I was in there to make sure I don't get too low. But for the most part, I'm not even in there. It makes it so simple that I spend all my time on the plants and now in the environment, because we have to control the environment, and then we have to give plants love, right? So
IPM schedules, all that stuff, make sure there's no plants. And so one of my other questions was, I was going to ask you, how would you suggest draining out the water from the bucket? Like that for using a water transfer? Would you like? I saw on one of your posts you were saying like everybody has shop vacs, so usually people would use a shop vac, but I was thinking, because I was looking at your post and you had one of those external pumps that sit out here that go in and out, right? So that you would be able to just stick a hose in there, suck it out, get it, suck them all out, boom, 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 boom. And how long can it sit without water? The roots?
Oh, quite a way. So let me answer that, because that's great. Great question. Okay. So that's exactly what I did. Is it's an inline pony pump, right? So if you have a few plants, 4 or more, I love the inline pony pump, because what you can do is you have the pump in the middle, it's self-priming, and you have a hose on this side and a hose on this side, right? So initially what I would do is I would mix up, I'd go buy, the right size garbage cans from my hardware store, and that was my reservoir. I'd mix up my reservoir. If it needed to be cold, I can chill it there, right? So I would always, I would either, and I was in an outbuilding, so my water was either too hot or too cold all the time. So I would either chill it, or I'd put a heater in it and prepare my nutrient solution. Once it was prepped, right, mix up all my nutrients because I'm doing 3 gallons for 16 buckets, so I know how much fluid I need. I mix it all up at once. I have put the one end of the pony pump hose, the suction there, and then I just go around to each hydro bucket and I just fill, smoke a joint, fill, just going along filling. Easy peasy, man, right? I mean, there's nothing to it. It was super simple. And then when it comes to pumping it out, same thing. I would just turn it around. I'd put the out into my drain, and then I'd turn on my pony pump and I would just go from bucket to bucket and just suck them out, right? Super simple. Another way to do it, of course, is a shop vac, but another way would be to say hook up a pump, like an aquarium pump, right? On its side, you could you could have that horizontal, like at ground level, and then you could plumb each hydro bucket with a blowout line. You could connect all those to that aquarium pump, and then just have a valve on the downstream of the pump, and then from your valve, just have that into your plumbing. So when it's time to pump them out, you just open up your valves and you plug in your aquarium pump, open your pump, and it's just going to pump it out to wherever you have it. Right. So those are if someone's a little more into it and they want to do some plumbing. But
yeah, that takes plumbing skills if you want.
Yeah, a little bit. And then the second part, what was your second part of your question?
The second part was the water transfer, and then I said I forgot.
Oh man.
But that's good. That's a good thing to think about, because the way that you have that set up with a secondary primary pump, or the pump to just go in and out like that, like seriously, that would take what, maybe 45 minutes to swap out your water. Boom, you're done, and you can focus up on top now, because you're getting bigger yields with these DWCs, man.
That's it.
Bigger yields. I seen shout out to Dr. Hydro. He showed me his plans with his DWC. Now I'm gonna have to turn him on to your guys' buckets, because he's gonna like that. But he gets, man, at least almost a pound and a half per plant, and that's just one, dude. Yo, that shit is so crazy. And the products that you sell are dishwasher safe also, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So you can.
That's one thing, everybody out there, if you guys needed to know, dishwasher safe, like you could just take it apart, boom, throw it in the dishwasher, follows, the dishwasher gets it sanitized, heated, and most of the residue will come off of it also in the dishwasher. That is stupid cool for sanitation. And just ease of being able to clean. I love that, man. I love it.
Yeah. Your question, I recall your question. Okay. It was how your dry back, how much dry back can you handle?
Yes.
And there is something that I haven't implemented yet, but this new room, I'm super excited. We're going to try a bunch of things on these plants, but they can handle, probably a day. Once they're like totally dry, they can handle quite a bit because they will suck that thing completely dry. Like I've had here in Canada, we can have 4 plants legally. So, I mean, you can make one plant as big as you want. You can have one plant per tent, one plant per light. Yeah. That big canopy, though, and that big root mass, I mean, you're going through 3 gallons every 2 days, like bone dry, right? Because it's like...
It's soaking it up.
It's using it, right? Usually it's I don't know how long it can stay dry, but you can play with this stress. I've had some great conversations with growers that have done this, and they say you can time that stress and you watch your plants, and right as soon as they like go like this, keep them dry until they just have one little stress. If you implement this stress at certain times in your grow, you're going to give it one of these stresses that really result in maximum expression, right?
Okay. Resin production, all that.
Resin production, doing what it's supposed to do at that time in the grow, right?
Now, I would feel like that is something that I would suggest a more advanced grower try.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Because out there, you guys, the new grower, be careful for this one, because
okay,
how to explain one thing that us growers that have been doing it for years know how to do is after years of growing, you start to learn how to read the plant. And you can read this plant by exactly what Mitch is talking here. Mitchell is talking about where it's getting too dry and it'll be like just a little, like you just see her start to be like, okay, all right, I need water, is what she's doing. And if you can catch that perfect time, right, is what you're saying, and then you give her water,
That's it.
she'll bounce right back, boom. But in that time, those stresses are telling the plant, here, start this hormone, start this, it's hormones, right? Yeah, I think it's hormones that start the more resin production, all this thing. I remember I used to do that, stress on my plants just to check and see if I was going to be able to get a hermaphrodite or whatever to test the genetics is what I used to do that for. Right. Not so much of the resin production, but I mean, there's a lot of people who are out there and they swear by it. So if you know how to do it, do that. But for, your new growers, be careful there.
Yes.
You could mess up the plants a little bit. But and how long have you been growing medical plants? Because you've been growing peppers forever, right?
So basically, medical plants for 8 years. Yeah, it was the previous to that was vegetables and that, and I still, I'm fighting against, IG, constantly. We've been forced to grow, peppers and tomatoes and these types of things for content, and it's the only way we can stay relevant. Otherwise, they shut us down so hard.
I know, and it's crazy because when you're a big company, like I'm assuming, how many followers do you have?
We have, it used to be over 20,000, and then now that IG just continues to nerf anything we do that's medical. We just don't get shown to anyone. Nobody sees our stuff. So
IG's on this thing to where they're just censoring cannabis content creators like crazy. All of us, not just commercial growers. There's the small dudes, the ones who are just doing their thing. Is I see that it's hashtagging. I don't know if it's this over censoring that's going on, or that we have some haters out there who are just like, hey, if I can't grow,
right?
If I can't grow, you can't grow, and so they just
once it gets a hold of you, right? Once the algorithm gets a hold of you, you're done, right? So you people will have great success, sharing their awesome grows and sharing their love of the plant, and it's all so good. And then one day it's just boom, it's over.
Boom, gone. And I'm waiting for that to happen to me too. I've been sitting there, but one thing was since I started this podcast, I have been interviewing people, right, and that have been shadow banned and stuff like that. And as soon as I interview them, boom, I start to get their haters. And so then I started getting flagged. One was Rob from CLTV. He has many, many haters. And so they were like, they jumped on my page and started just flagging all my stuff. And so the thing that I had to do was I had to go private. I had to stop hashtagging.
Yeah.
And ever since I've done that, I haven't had any problem.
Yeah.
None of my posts have been flagged. None of my posts have been taken down. And so I just, there's one thing that you can try out. Now you sacrifice, followers, but you also gain quality followers because you can check them before you let them come in and follow you. So
this is true. Yeah.
That's one thing.
So navigating this environment it has its challenges, right? But maybe someday, that's why I don't want to continue to push it with the medical because I want to survive until the rest of the world,
catches up.
Realize that, I mean, this is like a great plant that we should all be using, and it should be celebrated, right? We had it wrong. Oops, that's okay, So
yes, this plant is amazing. Everybody, if you guys have looked on my post recently, I just posted this thing about how alcohol causes cancer because alcohol breaks down proteins, and our whole body is made out of proteins. So there's something that could cause cancer, and there's something that causes cancer perfectly legal, and then there's something that helps cancer that is totally illegal in some places. Yeah. And gets absolutely demonized for it. Cannabis gets demonized left and right over something that is just like really it's old propaganda that just needs to change, man. Because really there's like us, like you're in Canada, you get to enjoy cannabis, right? I'm here in Washington State, and we get to enjoy cannabis. And the medical side, the recreational side, all that, right? but there's still some people in Texas and other states who are absolutely going to get their house kicked in if they have a joint. I mean, that's ridiculous, man.
This is it. They're experiencing, or they're living out their experiences that they've had, and the drug dealers had all the stuff, and one of the things stunk really bad. So that's their experience with drugs. It's all one big thing, but we're in a great spot now that the experiences we're providing to people that are cannabis orientated are really awesome people. Showing up in society that, I mean, you know what, you want to, how you judge us, go ahead. Right. But I don't drink. I do all kinds of other things that are good for me. And cannabis is one of them. And we're giving people great experiences that they're going to reflect on. Eventually everyone's going to get past it and we're going to get to truth. So
yes. And I can't wait for the day, man. I'm wait for the day, because actually, if you think about it, we're all going to be pioneers. We're already going to be ahead of the game. We're over here doing the thing when everything goes legal, and then everybody else is trying to jump in it. We're already certified. We're going to be standing here like, oh, man, we've been doing that, man. We've been passing the word out, baby. Been teaching people. So I saw that you had that white attachment, right? Now the white attachment that goes onto the bucket, is that for a trellis?
That's it. I mean, that was the intent.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, here's our plant carrier, right? Yeah, so this was so you could trellis it.
Okay.
We want to release this product. It's just, we're a really small company. We're a two-man show. And we can only go as fast as we can, and which is pretty slow. But we want a product that we can attach so you can trellis every single plant. So essentially, you can have 4 plants in a tent, and you could remove each individual plant, and they can all be scrubbed, right? And you could take it out, you could work on it, and you could defole, and then you could put it back in place. And at a glance, it's still a canopy that's absorbing all that light, right? Because that's why you want a big canopy in the tent, so you're not losing all that light and you're getting it all into the flower. But it's not locked in, and you don't have to go in and dig and twist and sides and all that stuff. I mean, you can it's a wild ride sometimes.
It is, man. That's one of the worst thing about trellising is trying to get yourself in.
Yeah,
like there's never no room for you to be able to get in because it's at this level, and it's hitting your head.
This is it, and you can tell when you're going through harvest the places where you could maintain well and the places where you just couldn't quite get there, and you're like,
there's a bunch of popcorn buds.
Exactly, it's just like it's a nightmare back there. So this gives us that option, right? And as again, there's benefits to RDWC and there's benefits to DWC, and being able to just detach quickly and just pull your plants out of your tent if you want, while they're low, right? So, while you're on a water change, when there's no water in there, plants are super light. It's not even like soil. Like you just grab it and you pull it out and you spin it around, you clean it up, you toss it back in the tent. So that's the product we're looking at releasing with that lid. And that's why we did put those rings, but they're also good for low stress training also.
Okay. Yeah.
Right?
I was thinking about that.
Because what you have to, if you're going to do some low stress training, you want your training not to anything external, because if you lift that lid up, I've broken so many arms because I was tied down to the bucket, right? Oh. And then I decide to lift in and I forget and crack. I crack a couple arms, right? So having everything low stress trained and anchored to the lid, so if you ever do have to lift the lid off, it's all there. And hopefully one of these days in a scrubbed canopy, right?
Beautiful. I love it. So we're at our 53-minute mark, so we got a couple more minutes, and you just absolutely killed it. But I only got a couple of questions left. I wanted to ask, what advice do you have for a first-time grower to go and start doing DWC?
Be honest with yourself of where you grow and what your what your space is, right? Like I say, like if you're in California and you're in like Northern California, like maybe you want to grow soil. It's maybe best go outside and grow soil. But if you live in Canada or you live in the somewhere where indoor works for you, consider hydro. So do what is good for you in your space. Is always what I give for advice, and it might not be deep water culture, and that's okay, right? It's whatever works for you. If you have well water, I don't even know if you want to grow. I mean, like it all depends. And the second thing is grow it out. Always grow it out. If that thing's still alive, grow it out no matter what. Because even if you grow out a plant that's not your best plant, at least then you get to harvest. You get to practice harvest once, and then you get to practice curing once, and you get to practice everything once. And then the next time you get to your big plant, you're like, boom. Okay, well, now I didn't screw up my harvest because I practiced it on that little runt that I grew. So there's lessons all the way. If it's alive, keep going. Don't give up on it. And you'll learn, and I mean, you can get the hang of it in no time.
Beautiful. Absolutely love it. Now, what plants do you see that do exceptionally well in DWC? Is it medical plants? Is it like peppers? Is it cucumbers? What would you suggest that does the best in DWC?
That does the best. Peppers are amazing in DWC. Outside of medical plants, I love peppers just because they can get almost like little trees. They can get old and they can grow and they can just produce flush after flush after flush, or that's a mushroom term. Bloom after bloom after bloom of peppers. You get these waves, right? It's not like a single cycle and then it's over, right?
Okay, so it's not like cannabis.
Yeah, it's not like cannabis, so it's really cool. I mean, I've had pepper plants that just lasted for, they just stayed alive with me, and they got nice and woody and big, and it's like a big African tree, took up like a 4-foot space. I mean, really cool. So I love peppers, and they're not delicate. They're a good hardy plant, and I like that. Versus cucumbers and tomatoes, they're fairly delicate. It's easy to just brush them and hit them and crunch them. And I don't know. I mean, they grow really well in hydroponics, but they're not my favorite.
They're not sturdy. They can't handle the men.
Exactly. But medical plants, by far the best. They grow fast. They're vigorous. They just, and I mean, if you've never grown cannabis, you don't even have to. You'll fall in love with growing even if you don't consume it. It is an absolute amazing plant. You'll fall in love with it.
Beautifully gorgeous when a plant is flowering and there's just happy, the colors, the smells.
And that smell, I mean, I feel that's the grower's perk. Only growers get to get that resin along the way and smell it and just be like, your eyes roll back in your head. You got it is so good. By the time it's dried and packaged and the muggles have it. I mean, that's good. I mean, enjoy it. But you, as a grower, you will experience things that you didn't know cannabis could do for you. Like aromatherapy, man. You smell it and it takes you to heaven.
It does every time that you smell those buds, and it's even better because you grew it. It's yours, So you can feel the love that you put into the plant in the smell every time.
Yeah.
Oh man, I did such a good job. All right, brother. Well, you absolutely killed it this episode. Where can everybody find you?
You can find us on IG, the Hydro Bucket on IG, Visionary Hydroponics, or the Hydro Bucket on Facebook, and YouTube as well. So those are our main platforms, and we like to produce as much content as possible. I mean, it's hard because I've been putting out content for years and I feel like I've done it all. But I just continue to show you how to grow start seeds and, talk about environmental controls and, customer questions come up and I can, make content on that. So, but we do have lots of content out there that you can look at to see lots of different grows, and, lots of different questions that we get asked that I answer.
Beautiful. I would love to try one of your guys' buckets. I'm thinking about it. If I go down that route anytime, I'm definitely picking up a hydro bucket. Everybody out there, I would highly suggest trying out the hydro bucket first before you go jump into RDWC or something like that. But to each his own. If you want to do what you gotta do, baby.
Yeah.
It's all good. As for me, you can find me on YouTube. Everybody already knows Psyche Loco. Make sure to go check out seedsman.com. I am an affiliate, so put in code SLY, get yourselves a couple bucks off the checkout. And yeah, man, Mitchell, you absolutely killed it, brother. Thank you so much for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me. Let's do it again sometime.
Oh, most definitely. I will definitely have you on for part 2. When you come out some new products too, we'll have them on, be able to show everybody. Maybe even I'll pick up something that way I can do like a giveaway or something. Get more people.
Awesome. Well, yeah, we'll do something. All
right, sure. Brother. Thank you so much. Everybody have a great day. And make sure to tap in for the next episode of CannaConvos. Late.